80% of my success has been from my mindset, really like harnessing the power of my mind and then create an experience like the life that I'm wanting to create an experience.
Today on the pod, I speak with Tatiana Quaife. She is the founder of Rising Women. We talk about her organization, being deliberate about what you want from your career, and her experiences as a marketing leader at Procter & Gamble, Disney, and Airbnb. Also in my weekly chat with Marty Beckerman, we discuss the interesting origin story of M&M's candy and the curious study finding that angry people actually do better at certain types of work tasks. Thanks a lot. All right, I'm sitting down with Marty again in person for our weekly talk on the things he and his team are covering in the B newsletter.
We're both wearing our party shirts this week.
Yeah.
Very festive.
I agree. Are we going out after this or what? Okay, so there are a couple things you're focused on that I think are really interesting. One of them, I love when you sort of look at company histories and new startups and things like that. I'm not exactly sure what M&M's messaging is right now. It's like those walking like animatronic M&Ms. But when I was growing up, the slogan was melts in your mouth, not in your hand, right?
Right, and that actually went back to the founding of M&M's, or its origin story, as we talk about in the B newsletter, which was the Spanish Civil War. They were being rationed to British troops that had signed up to join, and the reason these chocolates were rationed to the troops, it was really hot, and they needed chocolate that wouldn't melt. And so it was encased in a hard candy shell, which was like a amazing new invention. And a guy whose last name was Mars happened to be over there and saw these candies and realized I could make a fortune selling these to people who are not soldiers.
And he and his extended family and descendants have made a fortune. What's their estimated net worth?
They are, I believe, the third richest family in the U.S., worth between $93 and $126 billion by spreading the good word of M&Ms and diabetes to the children of the world.
Okay, right on. All right, another thing that you were studying was angry people.
Yeah.
Or people with a chip on their shoulder. Well, you weren't studying it. The American Psychology Association studied it and found, I think...
I lived in New York for 10 years, so that was studying angry people on a daily basis.
All right, yeah, and I'm in the Pacific Northwest, so I study passive-aggressive.
Yeah, it's sort of passive-aggressive up there. And New York is very, like, if someone's angry, you're going to know
aggressive-aggressive?
Yeah, just aggressive-aggressive.
So anyway, like, folks with chips on their shoulders in the workplace tend to perform better in a lot of ways. Is that right?
Well, according to this study by the American Psychological Association, they do perform better at certain tasks. They had them doing puzzles, video games, and putting them in an angry mood, kind of priming them by talking about upsetting political issues, got them to actually perform better on these tests. But it kind of came with a warning that being angry all the time at the office might have some long-term consequences for your health and your office culture, believe it or not.
Yeah, well, I believe it. I mean, definitely there's a trade-off. If you're making everyone else upset, well, maybe it creates a circle of anger, but I don't think that's what we want.
You don't want to create a toxic environment where everyone's mad at each other, departments are mad at each other. That's not going to help. And it's not good for your own health in terms of your blood pressure. And, basically just moved to Los Angeles. That was how I addressed my New York-induced, blood pressure. So
if we're stereotyping New Yorkers as aggressive-aggressive, PNW as passive-aggressive, what's LA?
Just passive. We're just passive here.
Passive.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That sounds good. But not angry from being behind the wheel.
Oh, I guess there is the road rage. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we don't need to label anyone else today. Thanks for chatting, Marty. Hi, Tatiana. How are you? Good to see you.
Hi, John. I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm excited to talk to you today about your career and the organization you've started. Let's actually start there. So you're the founder of an organization. It's for high-achieving women professionals. It's called Rising Women. What prompted you to start the organization and what's its mission?
Yes, thank you for sharing. Rising Women is near and dear to my heart. What prompted the creation of it has been my own journey personally, and what I've been going through and witnessing and supporting other women to go through. So that's where the inspiration came from. And Rising Women is really about inspiring and empowering high achieving women leaders to go inside of us to basically unlearn, remember, and reclaim like our truth, our magic, our power, so we can rise within and create the change that we're here to create. And I'm really excited to go all in and launch because it's been calling me for a while now.
I love that. When you say it's been calling you for a while, what are some of the seeds that made you say I've got to do this?
Yes, the seeds have been coming along as like, I don't know, breadcrumbs, if you will. And on my path, I started, just coaching and mentoring women has just been like a big part of my career and my journey, and started to notice as I was going through like my own inner journey of unlearning, remembering, and rising that other women were going through the same thing. So as I started, to coach and mentor other women, it really started to turn something inside of me. And, I went on a retreat for, women leaders, and the idea just came to me like a inspired idea, and I could see it. It kind of had like a life of its own. And like, I just started to go for it and created, a website and a mentorship program and a newsletter, and people has just been finding it too. So there's just been like an organic growth for it. And the calling of it has been, as I've been going through this inner journey, to remember who I am and why I'm here, to just really, especially this last year, just like step into it fully and own it and just go for it.
I love it. So if someone's hearing this and they're saying, okay, this is something I might want to get started on or check it out, what would they expect? Someone who is sort of like new to the organization?
Yes, I would say check out our new website, risingwomensisterhood.com. We also have a page on Instagram, Rising Women Sisterhood. And I'm very active on LinkedIn, Tatiana Quaife. You can find me there. And over there, I have a newsletter called Rising Women. So there's a variety of different ways for you to learn more about what it is and how to get involved. And yeah, I would love to invite you to come check it out.
Nice. And I'm going to ask you more about it, I think, later on in our conversation. But I want to step backwards throughout your career and discuss some of the lessons you've learned along the way, because you have worked for some truly iconic brands, Procter & Gamble, Walt Disney, and then maybe one of the biggest success stories of the 21st century in Airbnb. And I joked when I communicated with you offline, it all started with fabric softener. So, so how did you get the job at Procter and Gamble? What was the product? If people don't know just by that description, and what was your role there?
Yeah, so great question. So I, just to maybe go a little bit back, like I originally from Brazil. I grew up there and then moved to the US to go to college and stayed, and wanted to start my career in marketing. And coming out of undergrad as an international student, it was really hard, actually. Not a lot of people wanted to hire me when I didn't really have a lot of experience, but too, as an international student, there are visa implications and whatnot. So my first job out of undergrad was actually in manufacturing, like in purchasing and supply chain, which is not what I desired. And I share that because sometimes people see like our profiles like on LinkedIn and don't get that the road hasn't been a straight line, and there has been, steps that one takes that actually build, towards a path that we're desiring. So for me, it did not start in marketing, and it did not start at a big company like Procter & Gamble, but I learned a lot of skills in that first role, like strategic thinking, negotiating, teamwork, etc., that actually helped me to get my job at P&G. But for me, I needed to get my MBA in order to switch careers from, industries and completely different functions and all of that. So by the time I went to get my MBA at Indiana University, I remember there was a conference like before we even started our first year, and all of these big companies were going to be there to network with. And I tried so hard to get anybody to meet with me. So I remember I took that very seriously. I'm like, this is my one shot. I am not going to mess this up. I like prepared. I had like this binder with like research on all the top companies that I was wanting to work at. And like, I'd done so much research. I was so prepared. People even like made fun of me. But I went in really hungry, really determined, put in a lot of work, and end up getting a lot of different offers to intern at some of these top marketing companies. P&G was the top of my list because they're known for creating brand management. They literally, created marketing, and the company is known for developing like top leaders that actually eventually lead and go become, CEOs at other places. So I wanted to learn from the best, and from that conference, had the opportunity to intern at P&G, had a great internship, and then joined full time. And both my internship and my full time job were on Downy, the brand of fabric softener that you mentioned. And it's funny because, laundry is not something I've been like passionate about, but I became really passionate about fabric softener and laundry detergent, and I'm eternally grateful for my time at P&G.
There are two lessons for me that came out of that really jump out. One is a career is not a straight line. I remember early in my career doing customer service, doing telesales, things that I didn't want to do long term, but became incredible lessons for me about how to pitch over the phone, or how to listen to customers, or how to understand how to and not to talk about things with customers. And the other is preparation. I know that in my career, I've had a chance to interview a lot of early career folks, as I'm sure you have. And when folks have a certain amount of hustle and preparation and go getting from the start, it really stands out. And I'm sure that's one of the reasons why you got that internship. I'm curious, maybe one of the things that you learned there at Procter & Gamble, whether it was a method of working or a way that P&G approached things, or just something like novel about the laundry industry that you weren't aware of before.
Yeah, it's funny because it's hard to sort of say one thing I learned about P&G, because I often joke that my time at P&G was like continued education. So I was there for 6 years, and P&G's approach is like they hire, the best, is like an up or out organization. So anybody that comes in could be the CEO one day. So they like overinvest on training and development of people. And I'm eternally grateful because I basically learned everything there was to learn about marketing, brand management, leadership from the best. So it's hard to distill everything, but what I would say is one thing that ingrained inside of me was this idea of like consumer is the boss. And it was really about really understanding like the consumer, their needs and motivators, their barriers, and then creating product and marketing solutions that, would address those things. And just overall, the science and framework of brand management is all that I learned at P&G. But the other big thing that they used to say a lot, and it instilled that inside of me, is that it was really about the people. P&G has incredible billion-dollar brands, right, and really successful business. But they used to say, like, if you take away all of our brands, we'll rebuild it in a certain amount of time because we have the best people. And because of that, they like invested so much in people. I was poured into from mentors and coaches so much that after a while, that's just part of like who you are. So you're then mentoring and coaching, other people. So this belief that like people are what create the magic, was really instilled in me from that experience too.
It sounds like you got the most of it. I mean, so many people are wondering, should they go to a big company? Should they go to a startup? And there are advantages of both. But if you're at a big company, take advantage of everything that they'll invest in you. When I was at Amazon, they had incredible opportunities to learn, and also just like P&G, really amazing people that can mentor you and teach you about things. But you're not P&G anymore. You moved to Walt Disney in a really cool part of the company, which is the cruise and resort space. Why did you make the switch? what did you grow up a Disney fan? Was that kind of like a dream job, or were you more motivated by the career opportunity, or tell me that story?
Yeah. Well, to tell this story, I have to go back a little bit and say that, while I absolutely loved my time at P&G and learned so much, it was very intense. Like, it was, very competitive, very intense. And to me at that time, like, work kind of was everything. So I was transparently kind of killing myself to sell laundry detergent. and it wasn't going in a very like healthy and balanced path. And I feel like sometimes life has a way of waking us up in some subtle ways, and sometimes when we're listening, like not so subtle ways. And I got a big, really health scare when I was at P&G that really like shook me to my core and made me reevaluate like everything in my life, including like, why am I killing myself to sell soap? And as I was going through this very like deep introspective phase after I got healthy, so I'm healthy now, I realized that, okay, I'm good in marketing. Obviously, I've learned and I love to keep doing it, but I would love to do it in a brand and a company that I was like naturally passionate about. I learned to be passionate about laundry, but that wasn't like instinctively there for me. And I spent a lot of time reflecting. Around that same time, my daughter, who just turned 12, she turned 3. And for the first time, we took her to Disney. I grew up going to Walt Disney World from Brazil. It was like a huge part of my childhood. But when I took my daughter and my family went to Disney for the first time and I saw Disney through her eyes, I remember I was like in the resort, like at Magic Kingdom. And I'm like, oh my God, this is it. Like, I want to work at Disney. But I didn't know anybody at Disney. Like, they didn't like recruit in the schools I went to. So I basically went on LinkedIn and started networking and like networked, my way into the company. And eventually a role opened up that was like a good fit from my experience working in marketing strategy for Disney Cruise Line. So yeah, it was like a dream that was sparked, but a personal experience that connected me to my childhood. And it felt like it was going to be a place where I could do, what I loved and I had learned about marketing, but, with a brand and a purpose that was like more aligned with what I wanted to focus on.
It's very clear as you're discussing your career projection that when you want something, you go out and you seek it and you try to get it, which is amazing. And I'm sure that a lot of people listening would like to know just a little bit more about some of your techniques for networking over LinkedIn. Someone says, I want to work here. I don't know anyone here. What should I do? Any guidance around that?
Yeah, it is. Thank you for reflecting that, because it is true. I have a dream that like I sort of make it happen some way, manifest it, I guess. I've more and more have gotten into some inner things or like more woo-woo things, let's say, over the years, and like have really embraced that what I am doing is deliberately creating the life of my dreams. It's just that throughout my life, my dreams continue to change as I change. What is calling me and my dreams are changing. But to me, it starts by becoming really clear with what we want and why we want it. So there is both the clarity of the desire and the why, sort of like the fuel behind it to like motivate and create like the energy. And then there's like some very clear, like, steps that I take in terms of like building networks. It's all about relationships. I have learned it's all about people. And when, you're interviewing and things like that, like it's about a story, it's about people connecting with you. And it's like showing like that, you would be like a great fit, for the role in a way that is true. It's true to you and it comes through like in the conversations. But yeah, I have learned that over time and I've continued to refine. And it is part of what I, have been coaching people through. Also, because I've been like learning a formula or a process that has continued to work for me, even though like the dreams have changed, like how I've been approaching it is similar, but it has been like refining over time.
As part of this, you said at P&G, you were thrown a major curveball, a health scare. And I'm curious, how did you stay positive during that? How did you have a level of positivity or maybe maybe was that a challenge, and that's something that you're trying to help others through with Rising Women?
Yeah, such a great question. And, and my health care was an early stage diagnosis of breast cancer. And I was really young. I was like 31, and of course, those are words like you don't want to hear right from the doctor. And actually it was because of that my aunt actually from Brazil shared with me a book around the power of our minds. And as I was reading that, it just became clear that this was a big opportunity for me to learn all of that and really put it all into practice. So for a moment, of course, there is that like, oh my gosh, what's happening? And there's fear, of course, and why me and all of those things. But to me, it was this big sort of initiation and lesson on the power of my mind. And that's when I started reading about it. I learned meditation, mindfulness, all of those things, because I knew that I was going to create that like experience like for myself, and not only helped me go through that journey in a way that I felt not confident, but centered, grounded, and yet positive or optimistic about it, that I realized, okay, if I can keep bringing this thread with me like throughout my career, what is possible, right? Because before that, I would say my mind was my worst enemy. Without a doubt. But without a doubt, I had all these like melodramatic stories in my head. I called them novellas because I'm Brazilian, right? But like very dramatic novellas that were like constantly playing on repeat, beating myself up, driving myself crazy, holding myself back, right? Like all of those things. And now like I look at this really like unfortunate diagnosis as a gift, because it shook me and it woke me up and it set me like on this path that I wouldn't be today, like had that not happened. And it has continued like to grow and go deeper. And that's sort of why Rising Women is even here. And like, but even my professional journey wouldn't have been possible had I not learned about the power of my mind. And I think that's something that people don't realize. I think it's not scientific, but I think 80% of my success has been from my mindset. I mean, of course, there's like really important like skills, like about the job and strategies and like all of that, right? Like that I have learned without a doubt, right? But I personally believe that like 80% has come from me really like harnessing like the power of my mind and learning to manage it and then create an experience like the life that I'm wanting to create an experience.
It's one of the cool things that I think has changed about the work, I guess, during my career, which is combining emotional intelligence and skills together. Like that seems to be a combination that really works. On the skill side, so at Walt Disney, what was your favorite part of the job there? I guess that's number one. And then any major learnings or takeaways from a skill standpoint, maybe comparing it to your experience at P&G.
Yeah, I mean, I lived the dream. I was there for 6 years, and it was really cool because my daughter was like between 4 and like, I don't know, like 10 or whatever ish, and like, so she had the best childhood because like we were super spoiled, going on many cruises and going to the parks all the time. I mean, I loved being part of like a company that creates magic, right? Helps dreams come true. And you could feel it. You could be part of it, like launching a new land or a new experience, a new parade. I remember all of those moments and how incredible like it was to feel like that you were part of something that was going to create that type of experience and memory for people for like forever. Like, I don't know, these lands would be there for a long time, So it was just really cool to be part of that and work with amazing people that have shared like love and passion and experience. I mean, what I learned, I also learned a lot at Disney, but I'd say the power of storytelling, right? Like just really, really important. Like people really connect to stories. And, even like from a professional perspective, when you're interviewing and things like that, like how are you telling your story? Like how we tell our stories determine like where we're creating, So like the power of stories like throughout was really important, how creating like incredible magical like experiences. And I feel like while at P&G, I learned like the brain of marketing. At Disney, I learned the heart. So, because really, it really was about emotion, and creating and eliciting like emotion. So people would want to come have this experience, or they would remember this experience and then want to come back again in a different way. And also another thread is like the people were the magic makers, right? Like it's like I joined Disney because I wanted like to be part of the magic. And what I learned is like the magic were the people, and like how the cast create the magic or come up with like the stories or the rides and the experiences and things like that. So the other thread was continue to be about people.
That makes sense. I like that. I like the heart and the brain distinction too. That's great. And you went from those two iconic brands to a third iconic brand, a newer brand, Airbnb. And in thinking about P&G and Walt Disney, your marketing products that you experience yourself and you touch, where Airbnb, I guess you're helping consumers choose something that you, Tatiana, aren't physically going to. Even though you might have had the Airbnb experience, you obviously can't go to a million different properties. I'm curious, as first you joined during COVID, I think, is that right? Airbnb?
Yeah, it was towards like it was in 2021, so Airbnb was trying to like come
going crazy. When you think about the mission of the marketing organization, kind of comparing and contrasting to your experiences at Walt Disney, what were your major learnings there? What was it like working at Airbnb?
Yeah, it was very different, and I wanted that, like, as I was wrapping my time at Disney, as we talk about like, okay, my process, right, to get this dream jobs, like I first spend a lot of time clarifying what I really want, right? So I'm never like out there like applying to like random stuff. Like I'm really like intentional. So I spent a lot of time reflecting on, okay, what could this like next experience be? And because I had worked at very established and big and traditional companies, right, like P&G and Disney, to me is like, wow, it would be really cool to work at like a high growth company, like something that's just like poof, like more up and coming, that I could help to shape things or help to bring, some of my experiences to life. I wanted a brand that, I could get behind and feel like a connection to as well. And I wanted like to be myself, because I have continued like my inner journey. To me, more and more is becoming important to be my truth and my authentic self, like no matter where I am, no matter where I show up. So like the culture was like really, really important to me. So when the Airbnb opportunity came up, it just kind of aligned, with a lot of those things. But to your point, it was very different from everything. So I learned a lot of like new experiences, new ways. We were working remotely completely. So it wasn't for like a whole year that I met some of my team in person. So it was just very like different, like way of working. And the company was starting to sort of like rebuild their marketing team. So there was a lot of growth, a lot of expansion that I was fortunate to be part of and to help build as my team and responsibilities expanded from Americas to include EMEA and APAC and China. So like, it was a lot of growth in a very short amount of time, more than I could have even imagined or dreamed. So I learned a lot from that, but I learned about the power of building a strong brand to accelerate like growth and expansion. Because like it was funny when I was leaving Disney, I mean, Disney is so like iconic, and it was such a part of my identity that like I had to untie and sort of like unravel as like I was, getting ready to leave. But in my mind, I was like, man, I'm never going to work at another company that has a brand like Disney. I don't know, what other brands could look compared to Disney from my own perspective. But it was really funny because like, as I was leaving and sharing, even with my family in Brazil, who like, I didn't even know Airbnb at the time had, such a strong presence in Brazil. I remember I was telling my friends and family in Brazil, and they're like, wow, Airbnb is awesome. We love it. And I'm like, really? I just had like no idea like how strong of a brand it is for being around not as long, right, as some of the other brands. And it does show like the power of brand building and what it can do across the border, like across cultures, literally like all around the world, which was really, really cool.
That is really cool. I think I wanted to ask you about kind of career advice, and maybe to tee it up. I'm not sure if you've seen this going around LinkedIn and other social forums, but President Obama saying, the one thing that people early in their career should learn how to do is get things done, and why just that figure out how to do that. That's the great way to move up or be successful. In your mind, if someone's just starting their career in marketing, what is either like a top skill or an attribute or an attitude that you'd recommend someone have?
Yeah, that's a great quote. I hadn't heard, but I think like, to me, I think about gaining experience and just like building some muscles. So maybe it's like the doing, just like part of it. But like when you're early in your career, like to me, it's all about learning, like, and growing, and it could be from like a company that's like well established, like P&G, or like it just could be like just doing a variety of different things and trying and seeing like what you like, what you learn. But it's like breadth and depth, I guess, depending on like what you're feeling called to. But it's just about learning. So, and from a mindset perspective, I would say a growth mindset is really, really important so that you can continue to learn and grow, even when there are setbacks, or even when like you can't get the one job that you want, and you're like, okay, I can take this other job and learn all these other skills that then can help, right? Just set me up over here. Or sometimes the career growth is not linear, like, and you might take a step sideways or back, because it's really about, learning and building the foundations. As I look back, there's just been like all of these building blocks. I feel like I think about my career as like building blocks that like have just been building on one another, and not in a way that maybe I would have thought to your point earlier. But as now I can look back and I'll be like, wow, all of these pieces are coming together, and where I am today wouldn't have been possible, like with all of these different aspects of it. And just be open to, it may look different, right? And like, don't compare to other people and like their paths and whatever, because that's when like the mind, right, could play like really difficult tricks on us.
Well, you remind me with that point on comparison, what we say to our kids all the time, which is comparison is the thief of joy.
Yes.
There's nothing to suck the life out of the happiness or the joy out by just comparing yourself to everybody else.
100%. Yeah. And with like social media and LinkedIn, it's right there, so you have to really be mindful of it. Yeah.
No question. Well, let me close out in the same way that we started, which is about rising women. And when you're setting out your journey over the next year, what do you see for 2024 and beyond?
Well, great question. I'm, really excited. So I, haven't shared here officially, but where I am in my journey, I have left Airbnb and I'm going all in with Rising Women. So for me, it's a really big step. As I, have shared here, as I'm talking about my career, it's been like almost 20 years, right? Like in the corporate world, like doing the thing, like climbing the ladder, like doing like all of these things, which again, have been incredible, like learning experiences and building blocks, like for me personally and professionally, but also have been clarifying like what I really, really want to do. So this year for me was a big year. It was a milestone birthday. I turned 40. I feel like a lot of people talk about midlife crisis. I don't like that, but there is some truth to the sense of like, I feel like I've been going through like a midlife reimagining of some sort, and just revisiting like everything and being really intentional with what I want to create, like in this next chapter. And right now, I really feel like it's my time to go all in with Rising Women. So we're baking some new things, a new membership opportunity. We're going to have some different group coaching. I did one retreat this year, which was awesome. So I'm going to do like some new retreats. But I'm really at this phase where I am really clear on my dreams. So you were asking about my formula or how I've been creating my dreams. and it's changed. So I'll share in case it helps anybody. Like the way I would do it before, I would get to the clarity of, my dreams and my desires, and I would make a plan to kind of make it happen. So there was a lot of forcing and pushing and striving. And in many ways it worked. Like I got, like I manifested the things. But where I am in my journey now, it's a little bit different in the sense of I am getting more and more clear on what my desire is and the why and the vision for it. But I am more open and flexible and trusting of the how. So I'm really like following my intuition, following the pieces that are coming along and knowing and seeing how things have been unfolding, because I want to create this new chapter in a completely new way that feels aligned with me, with who I am, that feels balanced, that feels authentic, that is not like the old sort of way of like, creating and building like I had learned. So there's a lot of new things or new approaches or new methods that I'm learning. And as I'm learning, like my approach has been to just share with other people what I have been learning, so that if I can help and support other people in their journeys and just make that a little bit easier for them based on my trial and error and all the things that I try to learn, that would be incredible. So that's the plan for 2024, is to start to go. So I feel like I've been in a little bit of a cocoon, going through a metamorphosis of some sorts. And maybe in 2024 is when I can start like spreading the wings, a little bit more. I don't know if I'm full on butterfly, but like just a little bit more of the wings and the flying.
Well, there you go. It sounds very intentional and amazing. And I'm sure like everything else is going to go great. So Tatiana, thanks so much for being part of the podcast today.
Thank you so much, John. It was a pleasure.
Did you know that more than 20 million professionals and business owners visit business.com and Business News Daily? Why? It's the best place for resources, advice, and information about how to grow your business. And if your goal is to reach our audience, you should become one of our lead partners, sponsor a section of the site, or sponsor even this podcast. Reach us at business.com/connect. That's business.com/connect.